So last time we started on a program that is going to conduct a battle between a fighter and a wizard, like you're playing a role-playing video game, like an old Final Fantasy kind of game or whatever, um, or a tabletop Dungeons and Dragons type RPG. Uh, and we did nothing but set up the class structure. What are the classes we need? What things are subclasses or of other classes? What are the methods that each class needs to have? And how do they interact and connect with one another? So, for example, we have a class called Combat. The Combat is basically the game in which the fight takes place. It owns two characters, player one, player two. Character is a class. A character has certain attributes like a name, a race, a level, number of hit points, an armor class, how hard they are to hit or damage. There are two classes of fighters, but there could be, two classes of characters, fighter and wizard, but there could be more. So a fighter is a subclass that extends character. A wizard is a subclass that extends the character class. Let me make this a little bit wider. Okay. The fighter and wizard will have different methods that correspond to what they do. The fighter has a method called attack. The wizard has a method called cast, because wizards cast spells. So the two subclasses of character have different methods. That's the whole point of subclasses. Spell is itself a class. A spell is something that a wizard has. So the object spell will belong to a wizard. And there are three subclasses of spell. There's a curse spell. So curse is a subclass of spell. There is a fireball spell. That is a subclass of spell. And there is a heal spell. That is a subclass of spell. Each of these subclasses, each of these spells has an effect. What does the spell do? When you call that method, when you cast that spell, when the wizard, when the cast method of the wizard object is called, what is the effect of that spell that is cast? There's also a class called weapon. Wizards have spells. Fighters have weapons, and the weapon has instance variables like name and maximum damage. Okay. We haven't written the constructors for any of these yet. Our constructors are all empty. We haven't created new instances of any of these yet. That's what we're going to do today. I'm not even going to add any functionality to the instances yet. I'm not even going to flesh out the methods. All I'm going to do is create instances with the appropriate variables. And this is the best way to proceed. Do what we've done first, set up our class structure, make sure it works, hit run, there are no errors. The only thing the program does is print let's fight. That is in the main myprogram.java. Print let's fight. We haven't created any instances of any of our classes. We haven't called any methods. Our program doesn't really do anything yet. Let's make it do something. In order to create a battle, I need to create a combat object. Combat is the object which has the methods that will be, hey, fight each other. So I will create a combat. I will call it current battle. So combat current battle equals a new combat. This creates a new instance of the combat class. Let's put a little comment here. Create an instance of the combat class. Okay, and it's called current battle. I could create characters and pass them to the combat. The way I've decided to do it, though, is to have the characters initialized within the combat method. This isn't the only way to do this. This is the way I've decided to do it. Okay, so what does combat own? What are its instance variables? Its instance variables are player 1 and player 2. They are of type character. They are objects of the character class. What does the combat class need to do? It needs to create instances of the two players, and it needs to create instances of all of the things that will be part of that combat, weapons, spells, etc. So let's create player one. Okay, up here in the constructor, let's create an instance of player one. Okay. I'll also create one of player two, but I'm going to comment him out right now because I want to get the fighter working before I get the wizard working. So we'll create a new fighter, and we call the constructor of the fighter, and then we pass it all of the instance variables that the fighter class needs in order to make a new fighter. What does it need? It needs a name, a race, a level, a number of hit points, and an armor class, and I think that's it. Oh, and a weapon. We need to say what weapon the fighter is going to use. In order for this to work, fighter needs to have a constructor. So I'm going to create a constructor for the fighter. What does the fighter want as far as its instance variables? It needs a name, a race. Those are strings. It needs a level, a hit points, and an armor class. So the parameter list for the fighter constructor is going to look like this. I'm just calling the temporary parameters that are being passed. N for name, R for ace, L for level, etc. And I'm going to pass the shared variables, name, race, level, hit points, armor class, up the chain of class structure to the character constructor. Right? So I'm going to say call the super constructor, which is for character. That's not how you spell character. Character. Still not how you spell character. Character. My goodness. Constructor. And then I just need to assign the last thing I pass to it, which is the weapon, to my weapon. Okay? That's what I'm calling the fighter objects. Whatever weapon they own is my weapon. So my weapon equals W. That's the last thing passed to the constructor is the weapon. Okay? So all the shared variables get passed up to the constructor of the superclass. I only need to declare the one that just belongs to me. But we got to make sure the superclass has its constructor that works. So let's go to character. Okay, these are the instance variables, but I don't have a constructor yet for character. Okay, what does the character want? It wants a name, a race, a level, a hit points, and an armor class. Those are the instance variables of character. So I fill out my parameter list here. It needs a string for the name, a string for the race, an integer for the level, an integer for the hit points, and an integer for the armor class. And I'm just calling the temporary variables by their first name again. And then I assign those temporary variables to each of the instance variables. So the n that I pass to it gets assigned to the name. The r that I pass through it gets assigned to the race. The l I pass to it gets assigned to the level, and so on. So my character has a constructor, and its subclass, fighter, has a constructor that passes all of those attributes up to the superclass's constructor except for the one that is unique to it, which is the weapon. Okay? So now I should be able to create a fighter. The fighter has a constructor. I haven't defined any weapons yet, though. So let's go back to combat. And let's create just some weapons that I could give to my fighter. In other words, I've got a weapon class, but I don't have any instances of the weapon class. So let's make some weapons. Let's create a weapon called a longsword. Right, so this is the syntax for calling the constructor of the weapon class. Weapon, longsword, that's going to be the variable name is longsword, is a new weapon with the name longsword and a damage of 10. Let's create a few more. Okay. Short sword is a new weapon. Its name is short sword. Well, the name of the variable is short sword altogether. Its name in the class is short sword, in quotes. It has a max damage of 6. Let's create a weapon called dagger. Okay, it's a weapon called dagger with a damage of 4. And I could create as many of these as I wanted, and those would be all the weapons that are available in my combat. Axes, spears, clubs, whatever. And when I create my fighter character, I give it a weapon. In this case, I gave it a longsword. But I couldn't do that until I created something called a longsword. So a longsword is an instance of the weapon class. Okay, maybe write a little comment. These are all instances of the weapon class that are available in the battle. Right? I created 3. We could create as many as we want. Okay, let's create one more. Weapon, club is a new weapon. Its name is club. Its max damage is 6. Okay. So I can create as many weapons as I want. I could do the same thing for spells. Fireball equals, I don't know, let's just call it spell 1. That's not where the equals goes. Spell 1 is a new fireball. Spell 2 is a new curse. Okay, curse is a subclass of. Why is it doing that? It's putting little periods in. I got to turn that off in the Mac. That's not the CodeHS editor. Spell 2 equals new curse. Forgot my semicolon there. I just noticed it. And just copy this. The other spell we had was heal. Heal. Spell 3 is a new heal spell. I'm doing weapons and spells a little differently. Weapon is a class. It doesn't have any subclasses. It just has properties. A longsword, a short sword, a dagger, a club aren't different subclasses of weapon. They're just different weapon objects with different variables. But fireball, curse, and heal are completely different subclasses because they need completely different methods. They don't all just damage something. Fireball does damage. Curse reduces your opponent's armor class. Heal increases your hit points. So they need to be different. They need to have different methods, so I made them different subclasses. Again, that wasn't the only way to do it. That is the way we decided, or I decided would be the best way to do it when I sat down to kind of map out my class structure. Okay, so those are all the spells that are available in the combat. So I created my player 1. He's a fighter. His name is Craig. He is a human. He's got a level 10, 50 hit points, 16 armor class, and a longsword. Okay. I'm not going to create my wizard yet because I need to make his spell methods first, which we haven't done yet. What else do we need to do to make this program work? I need a constructor for weapon. Okay. I created a weapon, but weapon doesn't have a constructor yet. So what am I passing my weapon? I'm passing it a name and a damage. So that's the parameter list. It wants a string for the name, an integer for the damage, and then I assign those to the two methods of weapon. Okay, the N goes into the name, the D goes into the max damage. Okay, so now my weapon has a constructor. What about spells? What do spells need for their constructors? Well, the effect of the spells is all going to live in the effect method of the individual spells. So I think the only variable that the spell needs is a level. So I'm going to pass the constructor a level, and that's the only instance variable of the generic class. The subclasses, curse, heal, and fireball, might have their own instance variables. I haven't thought yet about how their methods are going to exactly work. But the spell just needs a level. That means when I create a fireball or a heal spell or a curse spell and I pass them that level, it needs to pass that up to the parent class, the superclass. Right, so if we go to the curse spell, okay, right now the method, the effects method, just says the wizard casts curse, like nothing actually happens. We'll make something happen later. But the curse spell needs a constructor for when I make a new one, a new instance of that spell to use in combat. And it's going to look like this. It's going to take the integer, the level that you give it when you create it, and it's just going to pass that up to the spell class and say, here you go. Okay, so spells are only going to receive one number when I create them, and each of the subclasses is going to have to pass that up to the superclass. So Fireball is going to be the same way. Fireball is going to take a number for the level and just pass that up to the superclass. So I give Fireball a level when I create a new one, and it passes that up to the superclass and says, this is the level of my spell. And we'll do the same thing for the heal spell. And again, this is a lot of code, so I've kind of switched to just copying and pasting instead of trying to type it all out, because I want you guys to just sit and watch me make mistakes all day. So heal is a subclass of spell. When we create a heal spell, we give it the spell level, and we just pass that level directly up to the superclass, to the constructor of spell, which is the generic class. Okay? So, what have I done? I've created a character. I've created a combat shell for that character to live in. I've created constructors for my fighter class. I haven't done my wizard yet. For my fireball, heal, and curse spells. And for my fighter class, I've got a constructor that takes all the attributes and passes them up to the character superclass and creates a weapon for himself. The attack method doesn't do anything yet. It just says, I attack. I think that's everything. I hope that's everything. Because right now, I'm gonna run it and see if it runs. And hope I don't have any mistakes. What are the chances I don't have any mistakes? Pretty small. Oh, there we go. What are we complaining about? Fireball. Oh, so when I created my spells in combat, I forgot to give them the levels. Okay, it's saying, hey, the fireball constructor wants an integer, and you didn't give me an integer. I just forgot to go back and do that. So let's make these second level spells. Second level. Right, that's one thing. Let's run it again. I think I'm going to get errors in my wizard class. Spell class spell kind of super L required no arguments found int. What's that all about? Fireball. I give it an int. It goes up to the super L. Why is that a problem? Int L, super L. Constructor spell and class. Let's make sure that our spell superclass. No? That looks right. Why isn't that working? Oh, I just put this in the wrong place. When I pasted this in here, I thought I had already written a constructor. I hadn't written a constructor. This is the effect method that I had blank sitting in my spell class. It should have been a constructor. Sorry about that. Okay, this is the constructor for the spell class. I was accidentally not paying close attention. Constructor for spell class. I accidentally put that stuff in the effect method of the spell class. So that should make those errors go away. I think I will still get an error complaining about the wizard class not having the right methods yet, because I haven't written the constructor for the wizard. Wizard.java, constructor character in class cannot be applied to given types. Even though I have that commented out, and this is one of the things that you guys know I don't love everything about Java. This is one of the things I don't like about Java, even though I'm not creating a wizard yet, because let's go back to combat. This character player 2 equals new wizard. Like, I haven't made a wizard yet. It's still complaining that the number of the parameter list of the wizard class isn't right, even though I don't call it. So let's go to wizard and make the wizard's constructor. We're going to pass it all the same variables as we pass to the fighter. The name, N for name, R for race, L for level, H for hit points, A for armor class. And I'm just going to pass him one spell. So spell is S. So it's going to have a variable called my spell, and I'm going to give it that one spell. That doesn't really feel right to me just yet, right? A wizard shouldn't just have one spell. That's a pretty crappy wizard. So I think what I'm going to do instead is later on, what a wizard should have is not just one spell called my spell. You should have an array of spells, or an array list of spells called my spell book, and he can choose from that spell book which spell to cast. So this is temporary. I'll go back and fix this later. When I make the spells actually do something, instead of just print I cast a spell, I'll go back and make that spell book work better. Right now it's just kind of a placeholder for that functionality, so it's okay that it's not quite the right variable yet. So it is an object, it's a spell, and it's putting it into the object my spell, just like the fighter puts a weapon into my weapon. Now when I run it, if I did not make any more mistakes, there you go. Let's fight, which is still the only thing that the program does. Okay, it creates an instance of the battle. It says, let's fight. Okay, the battle doesn't do anything because combat doesn't have any methods that do anything. Public void fight doesn't have anything in it. It's empty. The attack and cast methods of the characters don't really do anything yet. That's okay. What I'm trying to show you in these examples this week is how to build up the structure from the ground up for you to put the functionality in. It's a different way of thinking about approaching the steps of writing your program. You're not starting with the functionality. You're starting with the objects. Okay? What are my objects? What are their attributes? What are their methods? How are they related to one another? Who owns what? A combat owns some characters. A character owns some weapons. Okay? Where are these things created? And how do I kind of connect them to my program? So I've got that working now. It took me about half an hour or so. When I run the program, nothing happens, but that's okay. I know that what's working is all of the relationships between these objects make sense. I can create instances of them inside of one another. Okay? I've got a combat that owns a character, and a character that is a fighter, and a fighter that owns a weapon. And we're just thinking through that structure before we think about, now, okay, I create two fighters, I want them to fight. What do they have to do? What are the steps of that process? The first thing we have to do is figure out who goes first. In tabletop Dungeons & Dragons, that's called initiative. Everybody rolls a dice, the highest number goes first. So maybe combat will need a new method. Called initiative. Maybe. Depending on how I decide to do it. Public, and maybe it will return a character. When I run the initiative method, it takes a random number, and from that random number decides which character goes first. And then it returns, okay, character 1 is the one who goes first. So that's my initiative method. And then character 1 would, if it's a fighter, attack. If it's a wizard, cast. And then we would call those methods. So those methods have to do something. If you attack, you either hit or miss. So I need some kind of method. Maybe it's in the attack method that determines if that attack is successful. You can pair my attack to the other person's armor class to see if you hit. If you hit, you do damage to the other person. You take away hit points from the other character. One thing I haven't done yet, and one reason that none of these objects will be able to affect one another, is to write get and set methods for the spells, for the weapons, for the characters. Because if I hit you with my sword, I can't take away your hit points because your hit points are private. I've got to say, tell the other character to set their hit points to my sword damage, your hit points minus my sword damage. So this will take a while to work out as well. I just wanted to focus on that structural part first. Next, we'll get into the actual, let's make this program do something. That almost seems secondary to the purpose of this project, which was to think about this kind of complicated class structure. But let's not abandon it. Let's just make it do what we wrote it to do.